I'd say right now the market's overheated, given the valuation, the kind of money chasing and stuff. But I think some big companies will be built, although I think many will blow up also at time.
When India won the World Cup, I was in a studio just outside Noida. So I don't know, but also I don't go into dressing rooms. The last time I went into a dressing room, the last time was about half an hour after the game ended to congratulate Anil Kumble for taking 10 wickets against Pakistan in Delhi. That was the last time I went into a dressing room. I'm trying to remember, I did it one season with Mumbai Indians when I'd been in the dressing room. But it's not a very pretty or attractive place. Because my definition is, my view of life is athletes are best when they're wearing clothes around the field. But I'll tell you one thing about dressing rooms, from whatever little I've seen, is you'll see the same insecurities that you guys have. You'll see the same worries, the same tensions, the same joy of success, the same agony. They are no different from any of you. It's just that they're involved in an activity that everybody sees. When we fail in private. When they fail in public. Unless you run a company like his, which is in the public eye. But largely, a lot of us fail and succeed in private. Whereas they fail and succeed at a much younger age than us in public. So they have additional pressure on them. And when you're 23, 24, it's not easy to digest being overlooked in favor of somebody else. Because all these guys have worked damn hard from the time they were 14, 15, 16 to come up. That is assuming they were 14, 15, 16 in the first place. But even then, the premise is largely true. So they have the same tension, same insecurity that everybody else has. So don't look upon them as Superman, and for heaven's sake, don't call him God.
I have a question for you. So the first time I remember you giving commentary was in the 92 series when India went to Australia. Yeah? And were you still in Rediff that time? Had you quit, or did you quit after that? How did it happen?
I've been on my own since 1990. I remember I finished with PMG in early 1990, and then the editor of Midday said to me, would you want to come and spend 2 hours every morning while the pages are being made? Because we've got a couple of very young girls who don't have much experience in sport and don't know too many people. So can you come just for 2 hours in the morning while the pages are being made? And I'll pay you 3,000 rupees a month. I remember coming home that day and telling Anita, listen, I was getting 5,500 in my last job, and he's giving me 3,000 for just 2 hours here. That's a damn good deal. And then he said, will you cover England for us? I said, will I? I said, don't change your mind. So I was on my own from 1990, but that Australia tour was the one that changed everything. Because I went there to do radio commentary, which was not paying me a penny. So I had to write 2 articles a day. I had to host columns for the 3 captains involved in the tri-series there. I had to do a weekly article. They used to have something called video magazines in those days. Because you didn't have a lot of live television, a lot of television. So video magazines there. So every 15 days a video magazine would hit the stands, like a magazine does, a video magazine. So I had to hire crews, shoot video magazines, and courier them from a laid-back place like Australia. So inevitably it took a long time to get there. So I had to do all that to be able to radio commentary for which I was not getting paid. So yeah, that was Radio Australia. And I'm going back now there to the Boxing Day test on radio for them.
But you also had a couple of sessions on TV on that tour, I remember. But possibly as a guest because you were on radio.
Yes. But that was just the odd around here and there. What helped me was that Doordarshan had not paid Channel 9. That series was not on television, by the way. That Tendulkar 100 at Sydney, that Tendulkar 100 at Perth, none of that was on television back in India. So it was all coming back on radio. All India Radio was taking Australia's commentary. And that's how you get, that's how I got noticed. So, and then one thing led to another. So now when I'm going back, they said, look, we are a state organization, can we only pay you, we can only afford this much. And I wrote back to them saying, I have a tradition of not negotiating with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and I'm not going to change that. So they pay me whatever little they can, but I'm not doing it for the money.
But how did you get the first break with Radio Australia, where you got an offer and you went and they were not paying you? How did that happen?
I knew a friend who used to do work for Radio Australia, so I got a name and a fax number. And fax is not easy to send. I mean, I had to get out of the house, I had to type it out on a manual typewriter. I used to take, by the way, I used to take a manual typewriter with me until '94. Some of you tried lugging a manual typewriter around, you know it's good for the biceps. And so we had to send a fax from a business center somewhere about 200 yards, 300 yards away from home, and then wait till they replied. And then they said, we need some examples of your work because we haven't heard any Indian commentators. And luckily my dad had recorded some commentary that I had done for a Duleep Trophy match between Central Zone and South Zone. He had recorded for some reason. And you know, one of the biggest investments we had made that time was we had a double cassette deck player.